Hi, welcome to KJ and Tony Move to France. I'm KJ.
I'm Tony.
In today's video, we are providing you with an update. I know it's been a long time,
It's been like
right?
a month, hasn't it?
Been at least a month, I think, since we have posted a video. In this video, we're going to be sharing with you the circumstances that led to us returning to the US from France and our future plans to return to France and future plans for this channel.
And we're going to ask you for some input for you to let us know what you'd like us to be focusing on and areas that you might like for us to shine a light on and tell you about based on both our past travels and our future travels.
So are you ready?
I'm ready.
I don't know if I'm ready. I'm ready. All right, here we go. First of all, if you're new to our channel, welcome. Just a little bit of history relative to how this channel got started, why we started the channel in the first place. We started the channel to document this move that we're making from the US to France. And when we arrived in France and posted our first video from our first location, our apartment in Paris, the video exploded. We had no idea that it was going to be so popular, and our channel became monetized in less than a month.
28 days. 28 days.
28 days.
And the purpose was just to post our apartment. That's all. We weren't trying to start a business.
To have fun.
Yeah.
To have fun. But it absolutely did change the trajectory of our experience, of our plans, and we started posting more videos. And we just really wanted to share with you the adventures that we were having. If you're someone who loves France as much as we do, if you're maybe planning to move to France yourself, providing you with some helpful tips, and especially if you love Paris, because we in particular love Paris. And so that's how it all started. But we bumped into a few glitches along the way, let's just say. I don't even know if you would call it like glitches. How would you describe it?
Well, I would describe it as a confluence of events that created a perfect storm. And it wasn't one or two things, it was more like 6 or 7 things all coming together at the same time.
Yeah. And so I would like to share with you the circumstances that came together that ultimately led to me returning to the US and then Tony returning shortly after that, about a month after that. So this is not an easy part to share because there is, I think, so much stigma around mental health, in particular depression. And I was not prepared for the emotions that I was going to experience, especially when we moved to Versailles. That first month in Paris was magical, was wonderful. But when we moved to Versailles, it wasn't, it was a number of different things about Versailles and where we were living and the weather changing and a whole bunch of different factors. So I don't want to have this be about, oh, it's Versailles, and Versailles is this terrible place to go, because it's not. Versailles is beautiful. It's a wonderful place to visit, especially the palace, and there are so many other, like chateaus and places to visit in the surrounding area. But because I was not prepared for the homesickness that I was experiencing, I've lived in Boca Raton, Florida for over 30 years, or the surrounding area, generally speaking, Boca. And that's a long time. And I've never made a major move like that in the last 30 plus years.
I think also that one of the things that plays a part in everything that you're saying is that in Paris, we were in an apartment that you walk down 4 flights of stairs and everything you could possibly want was within a couple of hundred yards. So um, Versailles was completely different than that, right? So in Paris, you could stay busy all the time and not feel the homesickness. In Versailles, we were a 15-minute walk from the closest coffee shop, as an example.
Mhm.
And like you said, the weather changed.
Right, the weather changed. It felt very isolated at times because, of course, Piers was there, which was helpful and got us out more because we were constantly wanting to go to Paris and expose him to all of these wonderful experiences. But slowly over time, I started to experience more and more and more depression. And even though I was all smiles in front of the camera and I was doing what I love to do, because I really love doing
Mhm.
this. I have another YouTube channel that I've worked on for years. And so this is something I'm very familiar with. It's not all new, but I wasn't prepared for the level of stress that all of a sudden came with having all of these followers and then, wanting to, I guess you could say my codependency
Well,
really kicked in terms of wanting to provide this experience for people.
but I think we have to talk about our own internal drive too.
Right.
We're both kind of workaholics.
Yeah.
And so when that first video went viral, all of a sudden w- that sparked.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden we're doing 2 videos a week instead of a video whenever we feel like it.
Mhm.
And we set expectations that nobody had put on us, that we put on each other or
Right.
on ourselves.
Right.
And those expectations created pressure.
Mhm.
And I think that was a
Yeah.
problem
And
too.
so you add to the pressure the homesickness and the moving around, and my depression just grew and grew and grew. And it became more and more difficult for me to sort of like push myself forward. And Tony was seeing it, our son was seeing it happen. They expressed their concerns, but I kept pushing myself to to an extent that wasn't healthy. And I think that the illness, looking back on it, was probably in part my body saying, all right, enough is enough. You need to stop. And I came down with this terrible stomach virus, and we it was right, and the timing of it was right on the verge of when we were supposed to move from Versailles to Nice, and we were driving from Versailles to Nice, and I just remember thinking to myself, "There's just no way. Like I want to go home." Like all I could think of, what I could cry now talking about it, because all I could think of in that moment and in that at that time was, I just want to go home. Like it wasn't about, like, people say, oh, you were afraid to go to French doctors. And no, it wasn't that I was afraid to go to French doctors or anything really to do with that. It was just, it tipped me over the edge mentally and emotionally. And I just couldn't think of anything else but going home and being comfortable. And what's really interesting, or sort of like ironic, is that a part of this too was like missing my family, worrying about my parents. My parents are 85 and 87. And um, I thought to myself, I'm abandoning my parents and I really need to be there for them. And as it turns out, I go home and they're taking care of me. I'm not taking care of them. They're fine. They're taking care of me. And then I left and I insisted that Tony, it was really a dark time and it was really an uncertain time. And I said to Tony, basically, no, you can't come with me. I'm going home and you need to go to Nice. We had Nice scheduled, we had Saint Tropez booked, and
And paid for both.
paid for. And so there was no, and we had packages coming to Nice. There was just, it was literally a split second decision the day before we were supposed to get in the car and drive down to Nice. And so Tony, of course, he was like, I'm going to do whatever, is going to make you happy. And even though that's not what I want to do, that's not what I would choose for myself. If that's what you want me to do, then I'll do it. And he went to Nice, and I was able to get some money back, a good part of the money back from Saint Tropez, and then Tony returned at the end of the time in Nice. So that, and then when I got home, I broke out into a rash, which I've never experienced in my life. It spread all over my entire body. And it was basically like a stress rash. So my body was definitely like telling me something, that something was like seriously wrong. And luckily now I'm fully recovered from that. The rash is gone. The
You haven't mentioned at all the fact that you have a knee problem, knee
Oh yeah,
replacement, and going up 4 or 5 flights of stairs 2 or 3 times a day, what that did to that.
that was another factor. I was in a lot of pain with my knee,
Hmm.
and I was taking CBD, and I had gotten to the point where in the evening when I was sleeping, the pain from my knee was waking me up in the middle of the night. It was so painful. So definitely that was a factor in the back of my mind, thinking, do I want to go through having a knee replacement in France when we're not even settled? It wasn't really about like, oh, I'm afraid of the doctors and the language and all of that. It was just, I'm not even settled in a comfortable place to live. And I have this in the back of my mind that I know that this is a problem that is getting worse and worse and worse. So that was a
Hmm.
significant factor as well. So that's basically, what brought us back to the US, what brought me back to the US, and ultimately, Tony coming back to the US. And so why don't you talk about where we're where we're at now and where we're planning to go from here
Well, currently we're living in a rental in Boca Raton.
that we love.
We're in the rental for the express purpose of not owning something that we have to sell when we go back, because we are going back. We already have flights to go back for a couple of weeks, um, but going back permanently has a lot to do with KJ's knee and some other factors that have to be fixed or taken care of
Mhm.
before we make a permanent move. But we do intend to go back and forth frequently as makes sense, as frequently as uh, you know, as seasonally it makes sense, because we love France. And KJ didn't get to go to Nice, and for me, the 3.5 weeks I was in Nice, I thought it was going to be nice, and it was much nicer than I thought it was going to be. Being 20 miles from Cannes, 20 miles from Monaco in the other direction, about 40 miles from the Italian border. There's so much to do. The coast of Nice is spectacular, and the city of Nice and the people in Nice and the food of Nice. I actually like the food from Nice better than Parisian food, in that it's very seafood based, and I love seafood. And also, there's so much diversity that any kind of food from all over the world is available there. So we'd like to go back. I'd like to go back to Nice and take KJ back and show her Nice. And of course, Paris is always at the top of our list. I think that one of the things that can't be underreported, so to speak, is how any place compared to Paris, vis-a-vis Versailles compared to Paris, is going to not look as good. Paris, for me, I'm only speaking for
For
me,
us, yeah,
was the best month of my life,
right.
period.
We loved it.
To be able to walk along the Seine every single night at 9:30, 10 o'clock, to be able to go to Notre Dame. We were a block and a half from Notre Dame. To be able to go to that multiple times a day.
Hmm.
Imagine that, multiple times a day. The bakery that we loved, so it was all beautiful.
Some people have made comments about it, like, "Oh, you just have to come to the reality of the situation," and I don't really think that it's that per se. I do believe that I wasn't prepared for the emotional side of it, and that I don't view it as a failure, even though, of course, my mindset has gone there at times. And up until recently, I found it even hard to look at the footage from Nice, because I would get emotional. And there was a part of me that felt like if I were just strong enough and I could have just stuck it out. And yet at the same time, I do believe that things happen the way they happen for a reason, and that we're meant to be in the US right now, and that's where I was being led, and this is where I need to be right now. But it's also given us a lot of really helpful information in terms of how to approach this moving forward, because we've gotten some really great suggestions from people, one of them being like the furniture and having your personal belongings with you and what a difference that makes. And I was sharing with them that when I came back and I went to our storage facility and I started bringing items over that we had held on to our new house here, just how great that felt to be
Mm.
like, oh my gosh, I missed you. Like, the certain things that are important.
I'd like to go back to your comment about whether this is a failure or not. In no way do I see this as a failure. I mean, what we've done in 4 months, there's a lot of people that would love to be able to do that and don't have the nerve to do it, or don't have uh, the stick to itiveness to get through the paperwork and do everything that we did. Um, this is experiences that I'm going to have for the rest of my life, and you're going to have for the rest of your life,
Right.
and we're going to add to them.
Yeah.
So, in no way is this a failure.
Well, and I also went through a period of time of thinking, oh no, do we need to change the name of the channel? Because are we are we going to there was a period of time where we were like, okay, are we going to try this again? Are we going to continue with our plan to move to France? And ultimately, we've come to the decision that yes, that is something that we'd like to pursue, but in a different way, on a different timeline. So the name of the channel stays, yet knowing that we're going to be in the US for a year, right? We're going to be here, most likely for the duration of our lease. What would you like to see in terms of videos and our channel? Because we would like to focus on that. What you would, as the viewer, would find helpful.
And,
So,
and what questions do you have based on what you've heard, not just today, but what you've heard over the last 4 or 5 months
mhm,
of our videos? What questions do you have both about us and our experiences and the places we went to? So
mhm.
if there's something that we haven't addressed that you'd like to know about, we're happy to do it.
And we do have footage. I have footage from Paris that I haven't posted yet that I'd like to put together and launch a couple of videos. And then there's the footage that you've taken in Nice, not as extensive, like you've done a little bit here and there. And so, how we can put that together and share that with you, we're going to do that, obviously. And of course, every time we go back, we're going to be sharing footage of those experiences as well.
And we also have our blog, which
Yeah, which
which
we're
it could,
going to continue.
yeah, which has continued. I don't know if you follow the blog, but we have a blog
Yeah.
that talks about what we've just talked about in depth. So I think we just posted a few days ago on the blog, right?
Yeah.
About
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
about my month in Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a link in the description if you'd like to subscribe to that blog.
So there's a lot of different ways that we can communicate, that we can answer questions for you,
Yeah.
or direct our perspective to some area that you'd like us to see.
So we are back and we do plan on moving forward with posting videos. I can't tell you exactly what that schedule is going to look like because Piers actually, we taught those of you who know Piers, our son, who was a part of a lot of our videos that we posted the last month or so that we were in France. We spoke to him last night on the phone, and his very first comment was, "Mom, are you doing a YouTube video, Mom? Be careful, don't do the YouTube video." And I said to him, I said, Piers, I promise I'm going to take a relaxed approach, and we're probably going to post a video like one every month or one every couple of weeks.
And if this video goes viral,
This video is not going viral, trust me. So anyway, thank you so much for supporting us, for supporting our channel.
And thank you for
And
all the great comments
yeah,
and concerns.
absolutely. I mean, those really, you have no idea how much that helped me through what was really a very, very difficult time for me. So I can't thank you enough. Bisu, bisu.
Thank you.
Bye.